Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Karen. I make bookish and college related videos, and today I am very much giving you Dwayne The Rock Johnson vibes. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some books that I have read recently, books that I'm currently reading, and as well as the books that I have borrowed from the library. Most of these books actually are all library books with the exception of one of them, or a couple of them actually. So I'm going to be splitting this video up into like two parts: books I've recently read and then books that I'm currently reading. I think I like this format of sharing of my current reads instead of like a TBR video or a wrap-up video. I just think that, I don't know, it's this type of formatting is a little less binding, if that makes sense. First category, recently finished books. This is really, I don't think, in the right order, but the first one I'm going to mention is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I absolutely loved this book. This book is categorized under mystery and thriller, and I think it's better if you don't go into this really knowing about what the whole story follows, but there's this one part I will read. When does coincidence become conspiracy? Where do people go when gentrification pushes them out? Can Sydney and Theo trust each other or themselves long enough to find out before they disappear? And I really liked reading this. I think the first 150 pages or so were really slow, which when you take like the entire plot into account is very understandable, because one, you have to build up an entire like story and plot line of this whole world in Brooklyn. The thriller part is not overwhelming at all once you get to it, which I genuinely really enjoyed. When No One Is Watching, great book. If you're okay with reading like a very slow book in the beginning, I think this would be great, but it does touch on a lot of themes of like race and gentrification, intergenerational trauma. Next book that I read was Big Friendship: How We Keep Each Other Close. This is by Aminato So and Anne Friedman, and the synopsis reads: a close friendship is one of the most influential and important relationships a human life can contain. Anyone will tell you that. But for all the rosy sentiments surrounding friendship, most people don't talk about what it really takes to stay close for the long haul. So I actually purchased this book back in 2020 with like a gift card, so it wasn't my money. I'm on like a book buying ban. But I purchased this book knowing about these two authors. So they co-host a podcast together called Call Your Girlfriend. And basically they're like two long distance best friends, and I've only listened to a handful of episodes and have read a couple of articles by Anne, but basically, I don't know, they uphold this image in my head of like the ideal friendship, and they also hold this image of like a successful professional woman. And reading this book, they talked a lot about like the origins of their friendship, as well as a lot of the hardships that they have gone through, and they talk all about it, from their annual like girl trips, their therapy that they went to together, Shine Theory. And I really enjoyed reading this book because I personally have like a long distance best friend, and after I read this book, I immediately shipped it to her house, and so I think she's reading it now. But I found a lot of what Anne and Amina were saying in this book very, very valuable, and it kind of like, it didn't really change my perspective on friendship, but I think it definitely made me a little bit more grateful and aware of the relationships that I have with different people and what it means to really be big friends, not like best friends, but like big friends, as the title says. I love this book. I think you should read it if you have a long distance best friend as well, or a long distance friend. Just next book that I read was Cannibal by Sophia Sling. This is actually a poetry book that touches a lot on the author's childhood, race relations, womanhood, and all I can really say is that this was a really like beautifully dark poetry book. I really enjoyed it. I am trying to read books that fall under the Free Black Women's Library like reading challenge, and this was a poetry book that I have been eyeing, so I was like, you know what, I'll read it. So the next part of this video, I want to talk about books that I am currently reading, and so I have a goal for that each month I read at least one book that is not class related. And I have a couple of them that I want to read that aren't class related. But the one book that I'm reading, I have talked about this in several videos now because it has taken me so long to finish this book. I'm not even done with it yet, but that is The Blood of Emmett Till by Timothy Tyson. I'm currently reading on my iPad, and I'm reading this book for my civil rights history class that I will be taking in the spring semester in a few weeks. I've already talked a lot about my thoughts so far on this book in my Day in the Life of a History major vlog that I uploaded recently, so you can go ahead and watch that. There are people walking by the window. Okay. The next book that I'm currently reading is actually one that I'm buddy reading with my friend Anna, and that is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. You may recognize this. This is the book of the month pick for this month, and it's also on like the New York Times bestseller right now. But let me read a little synopsis. A novel about the forbidden union between two enslaved young men on a deep South plantation, the refuge they find in each other, and the betrayal that threatens their existence. So this is a LGBT historical fiction, and I'm very excited to start reading this with Anna. I think we're gonna read just like a couple of chapters every so often. Don't really have like a set day where we want to complete this by, but it's a really hefty book, and I don't know, I think this would be like a great distraction from the books that I'm like reading in class, you know. And the third book that I am currently reading, it's actually a really short book, but I borrowed it from the public library, and that is The Lives They Lived, a look at women in the history of Spartanburg. And this is actually written by several different authors because each chapter touches on different women or different group of women in Spartanburg in history. And I will give you an example. For example, there's a chapter about slave women. There's a chapter about Mary Wilson G, which if you go to Commerce College, Mary G. Dining Hall is named after her. We have Mary Hardy Pfeiffer, a journalist, women and the girls in the textile mills. We have a feminist, an educator, registered nurse, civic leader. So we have a bunch of different women that were all based in the Spartanburg area featured in this book. And they range from, I believe, like the early, the mid 1700s to the 1980s. And so I'm really excited to read this. I love learning more about women's history, and if it's local, that's even better. But yes, no books have been purchased this month so far. I'm going to have to buy some for class soon, and so I think I might do a whole video on where I get my textbooks for cheap, because textbooks can get really expensive. Let me know if you would like a video on that. But anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and please subscribe, and let me know what you are currently reading in the comments down below. Bye everyone.